Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Golden Opportunities Coaching YouTube channel. And please like, subscribe, comment below. We're almost 500 subscribers. Need your help to get there. And we'd like to get to 1,000 this year so that we can start to give back to charities where appropriate and possible. I know people are struggling with COVID. Haven't been around in a while. Going to change that here in 2021. Anyway, this is a audio about 13 signs that someone's been emotionally abused. Emotional abuse is, at the core, events and circumstances that ultimately make a person emotionally volatile. And often, if you're dealing with an emotional abuser, they will do these things. The first is blame. If you don't trust your own judgment, then they have control. And blame is a great way for an emotional abuser to gain control. Now, a lot of times this comes from narcissism. It comes from immaturity. There's many ways that blame can be used as an abuse mechanism. But if you're constantly getting blamed for things that are not your fault, or if a person isn't willing to take their half of blame in situations, there is an abusive element going on. Next is never resolve. So arguments that never resolve, social issues, things that you talk about that never come to a level of resolution, there is an abusive factor to that. If a person knows that they can control your emotional state or how you behave or how you respond through bringing up subjects, topics, or ideas, concepts that will kind of rattle you and make you feel uncomfortable, they are being controlling, which is another factor. Control is the motivator. The blame game is an effort to gain control. And this can be something as simple as controlling a person's plans, controlling their ideas, controlling their thoughts, controlling their emotions. So if control is at the center of conversations in much of the time, I'd even say anything more than 30% of the time, starts to become unhealthy. I mean, we all have, hey, I need you to show up by 6 o'clock. That might sound controlling, but if there's a legitimate reason, it's not. However, I need you to show up at 6 o'clock because I said so. Again, intention has a lot to do with it. Completely changes the dynamic. The next is emotional roller coaster. If you never know how to respond to a partner, friend, family member, or another person because you're trying to get a gauge on how they're going to respond, react, think, feel, speak, or in other ways interact with you, and you're on an emotional roller coaster, or they are an emotional roller coaster themselves, as in you cannot predict or anticipate their emotional state, you're in an emotionally abusive situation. And this can be extremely difficult to cope with, especially if you're financially beholden to a person or you think you're in love with a person. Love is such a misunderstood concept, especially in Western society. It's more than a feeling, it's a commitment first and a feeling second. And so most often we have people who go on an emotional roller coaster when things are going well, things fall apart. And then the roller coaster begins and you're trying to get back to where you were. And what people don't realize if they're in an emotionally abusive situation most of the time is they spend most of the time trying to balance the plates, so to speak, to get things going, back in a positive direction, and it's exhausting. The next is insults. An emotionally abusive person will know what to say, how to say it, when to say it, where to say it. The tone, the inflection, the word choice, all of that factors in. If it's meant to be insulting in a non-joking manner, we all have sarcasm and wit, and sometimes they can go too far. So a jab here and there that's uncomfortable is bound to happen even in healthy relationships. But the intention of words can be very telling. If a person is constantly insulting or constantly berating or critical, overly critical, all of these things can be signs of emotional abuse. The next is if your partner, friend, family member, or whomever you're dealing with expects you to be a mind reader, to anticipate their needs without communicating, and gets angry when you don't. This is so common, especially in parent-child dynamics, where a parent has unhealed wounds and they don't communicate well, and they expect the other person to think like them, act like them, behave like them, and be like them without putting forth clear attainable, expectations and communications, it never goes well, because in the end, a person can only do what they understand to do, and understanding only comes through communication. The next thing about emotional abuse is you feel, or the person feels, like they don't matter. Insignificance is a sign of emotional abuse, because you're constantly trying to prove your worth. If you feel you have something to prove in a relationship, a friendship, a family dynamic, chances are there is an emotionally abusive element to the situation, in that true love is 100% accepting in all ways. So if you're having a bad day, you're accepted. If you're having a good day, you're accepted. If you're succeeding, you're accepted. If you fell short, you're accepted. If you make a boneheaded move, you're accepted. Acceptance is intrinsic to true love, which is unconditional acceptance in and of itself. And so when a person is unwilling to do this, there's an emotional manipulation, at the very least abuse, possibly, concept and construct to the way they're doing things. Gaslighting is another one. Kind of scrambling your emotions so that you feel like you can't trust your own judgment. The scrambling of emotions is a textbook way for an emotional abuser to gain control or regain control. If you don't trust your own emotions, then they can get what they want by guiding you through suggestion, through intimidation, through insults and other negative verbal reinforcements. And that's it. Ultimately leads to the next thing on the list, which is conditional standards. So if you are told that you are loved, and then it's pulled away and say, I'll love you only if you, and this can be done in terms of verbal affirmations taken away, this can be done with withholding sexuality, this can be done with withholding money, time, affection, or any other, human need. When there's a condition placed, if you do, then I will. If you don't, then I won't. When we place conditions upon love, there can be, and often is, an abusive motive behind conditional love. The next is downplaying progress. So emotional abusers are most often insecure individuals. These individuals want control, and they want it in a way that they can understand it. And so if a person is progressing beyond what they believe that they should, or in a way that's going to lead them away from the relationship, or could lead them away from the relationship, the insecurity spikes and surges, and then therefore becomes more pronounced. When that happens, any progress that takes a person away from the way the relationship currently is will be insulted, it will be downplayed, it will be ignored, it will be belittled, because the person wants you to succeed, but only in ways that benefit them. And that's another thing to figure out. When a person's mood changes or their tact changes, you have to think, are they thinking that they could lose something? Because fear of loss is at the center of almost all emotional abuse techniques and tactics. If you help a person who is emotionally abusive, they're going to be critical of the help. The help may never be enough. It may never be sufficient, and it will never be complete. And so you might say, hey, I'll bring you dinner. Oh, well, you burned it. Or, oh, well, I didn't want this side dish. Or if you spend time helping them, oh, well, you ran 10 minutes late, you don't really want to help me. There's always a reinforcement of, I still need you, but you didn't do it the right way. And they will control where you go, who you spend time with, and all of that. The control mechanism of how you spend your energy, effort, and time is another factor. If you're dealing with an emotionally abusive situation, certainly I encourage you to get help with a minister, coach, counselor, or another individual, because dealing with this alone can actually cause you to lose faith in your own ability of judgment, which only will make things worse. In any event, we will close this for today, and I encourage you to keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.